Welcome back to the Day of Wellbeing. Today I want to talk about redlining. Now, redlining is a term you may or may not have heard of. I first came across it in the context of chronic fatigue syndrome and the community around that. And it's a very useful metaphor. Basically, the idea is that we can go into the red. That means that our meter, our dial, is telling us that we're in danger, like we're low on fuel or we're low on oil, or that we're going, the engine's too hot would be another one. And the basic idea is that, there's kind of like safe margins within which we can operate. And then there's going into the red, where we're likely to have some kind of payback at a later time. And from my own experience, I wasn't particularly attuned to this. And there were many, many occasions before I got ill, which I'm kind of climbing my way out of now, which is a whole story of its own. But I was redlining pretty much all the time. And it's not like I had the right kind of sensor mechanism. I wasn't fully aware. I remember catching myself and thinking, how am I doing all this? I'm doing crazy amounts of computer work, so computer programming, teaching and making courses and writing books and just crazy amounts of work. And I think this is probably quite a common thing with people that work on computers a lot. There's often this there's a task you want to do. And then in order to achieve that task, there's a subtask. And so you go down the rabbit hole. It's like, oh, well, in order to achieve that subtask, I need to achieve that subtask. And we're so kind of keen to get the original task done that we might end up going down and doing like a whole bunch of subtasks because we don't want to like drop the plates. It's like all these different plates are spinning to get the complex job done. And it's like, well, if we stop and we don't get back to where we started and finish that job, then a lot of that work will have to be kind of picked up. And so there's a real danger of overriding our kind of natural warning systems, if you like, in order to get the job done. And, our culture certainly doesn't really encourage us to question this behavior. We live in a very kind of driven, achievement focused culture where, doing versus being tends to be kind of rewarded and valued. So it's something that I think we need to learn about for ourselves. And it's like a whole new programming, a whole new training. So, we're going about our lives and starting to notice these points where going into the red. Now, this is often related to burnout. And, my whole journey with illness is kind of related to burnout, but there's other factors as well. But in order to avoid burnout, or in order to, if we've kind of gone into burnout, to kind of pull ourselves back before it's too late and we have like a full crash, it's going to be a great idea to develop this sensitivity. And there's signs that tell us that we're kind of going into the red, even if we're not like naturally aware of it, which I think we can become more kind of aware of it on a kind of felt sensation, kinesthetic level. Stress, it's like often if our state of, if our kind of natural state is basically stress, we can become numb to that and we're not actually aware of stress, but it does have kind of physical symptoms in our bodies if we slow down enough to notice them. But I think something can happen where, we're so busy, we're so stressed that actually we become less and less aware of the stress. But it's possible that we're in this state of kind of hyper stimulation where we're pretty numb to what's really going on. And it may be that people in our environment are more aware of it. So signs to look out for, am I getting really irritable? Is my sleep affected? Am I starting to feel depressed? Have I lost my motivation? Does everything feel a bit meaningless and empty? These are all like signs of burnout and signs of stress. It's like, it's a really pernicious thing, stress, because we can confuse it with like excitement and getting stuff done and that kind of the buzz. So I think it really takes a kind of re-education in the sense of, knowing ourselves, knowing our bodies, knowing our energy, knowing our behavior, noticing the effect we're having on people around us. Like if we're getting really snappy and short-tempered and, reacting disproportionately to things that are irritating us, these are all good signs. And then the more serious signs, like you can't get out of bed for a year because you've really just, they say with true burnout, it can take a very long time to recover if you don't heed the warning signs and you just keep pushing through, as our culture encourages us to do. We can really mess up our bodies, and it can take a long time to recover from a kind of continued pushing past our natural limitations in the name of achieving something that may be a very worthy goal. And, our culture doesn't, like I say, doesn't discourage us from that kind of behavior, but it can be disastrous for our health. So something to be aware of, right? So this is redlining. So the point is, find your inner dial. I don't know which way it goes. I don't know which is up, which is down. The analogy of an engine running out of oil is a good one. If your oil meter is kind of red in terms of low, low oil, then things are going to start grinding, crunching, and eventually you could just like grind to a halt. The whole engine could just die on you, right? So it's a good analogy. That's in terms of like a low level, but then a high level might be, in terms of your heat, the kind of the mental energy that you're using. It's like, high off the charts, red. You're using too much mental energy. You've been working on this really complex thing for the past 3 hours and you haven't blinked or whatever. It's like you've got to be aware when this is happening. And it's not always easy because we're so immersed in the task. So it's really important to kind of develop that awareness. And I guess one useful way to kind of counter this tendency that we have is to bring in some micro habits. So this is what I didn't do. So retrospectively, it's like, well, take those breaks, put a timer on your screen. It's like, take a break. And it doesn't matter, the plates fall down. It's like, okay, I've got to pick them up again, but that's better than, burning out and compromising my health. So take a break whatever's appropriate for you. They say, look into the distance, just take a moment of just like, okay. Go for a walk. Have the discipline. So this is an interesting one because a lot of the kind of coaching and motivational stuff out there is like, discipline is everything. There's also a discipline in doing less, in saying enough is enough. Yeah, I need to stop. I need to nurture myself. I need to do self-care. So discipline in terms of self-care is just as important as discipline is in terms of like getting my goals done, and achieving stuff. So it could well be that we might consider ourselves to be very disciplined people, but there's the other side of discipline, like the discipline to stop, the discipline to, like I say, to take care of yourself and to nurture yourself and attend to the other things in life, that maybe the being more than the doing, or, whatever it is that you love to do that nourishes your soul. Doing some of that, having the discipline to timetable that in as much as you timetable in the business contracts and the meeting deadlines and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, but just this idea that we have like little micro practices throughout the day. Like for instance, Qigong, you might stop and you might just do a couple of rounds of some Qigong form that you have. That's going to make a huge difference if you do that, say 5 or 10 times a day, like an 8-hour workday or something, versus doing it not at all, because these little micro things kind of add up. So yeah, resting your eyes, looking into the distance, going for a little walk, doing a bit of Qigong, just letting your mind go quiet, empty. And another thing about this is that it's actually more efficient. So paradoxically, right, our subconscious is very, very creative, very powerful. And I think it was Einstein was renowned for like when his thinking got like he wasn't making any progress, he'd go off and he'd have a go on the fiddle and play a few tunes. And sometimes sleeping on it, you've got a choice between like working an extra hour and getting this job done, and you just can't work out what needs to happen, or you just say enough is enough, right? And you go to bed or have your evening and then go to bed, and then the next day it's like clear as day what you need to do, and you can get done with a fraction of the mental energy what you couldn't do the day before, because your subconscious has been percolating. So leverage that. And if you're into leveraging stuff, which a lot of high achievers are, it's like, let's leverage this. Leverage the power of the subconscious to percolate ideas and to hand you the solution, maybe either in a dream or simply the next day. It's just obvious when you sit down at your computer or whatever your job is, the solution is there. So that's pretty much it. Redlining. Okay, so be aware when you're going into the red, depending on what we're talking about. You either got too little oil or your engine's overheating. Either way, you're in the red. You've crossed a line beyond what is sustainable and what is ultimately good for your health on all levels, not just financially, okay, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually, like the whole holistic picture. So that's it. Redlining. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.